Hey guys, this is Invoked 101, and today I am deck profiling a Crusadia deck. This is by my buddy. So it's not a finished build, it's more of in the testing stages right now. It's getting there, and it runs some cool stuff. It runs a little bit of the old build from when Crusadias were like kind of first announced, but it's also featuring a lot of the new stuff that people have been testing out, along with some personal stuff in there. So very excited to do this. And if you guys want to see more deck profiles like this, consider supporting me on Patreon. Just that $1 a month goes to creating even more deck profiles. I know that like I've been getting a bunch of comments lately about like Dark Worlds and Heroic Challengers. But yeah, and also if you want to keep up with everything on the channel, consider subscribing. The button is just down below. So we're going to move the spells, we're going to move the extra deck, and we're going to talk about the monsters. So I kind of had to crash course my way through these. But first up is a guy who's familiar to me. This is Crusadia Maximus, also known as Chosen by the World Chalice, or, you know, Mech Knight Avram, or World Chalice Avram, whatever you want to call him. He's upgraded, he's got his new form. So real quick, with all the Crusadia main deck monsters, so that's this one, Drago, the Lion, the Girl, all of them have the Crown, all of them have the effect to special summon themselves to a zone a Link monster points to, which is, you know, pretty useful, you know, free special summons. And then they all have a bonus effect. So kind of like the Mech Knights where they all can special summon themselves, but then they also do something unique. So his unique effect is that while a Link monster points to him, he gives double piercing damage, I believe. Double damage, not piercing. Yeah, you can target you target a Crusadia Link monster you control this turn. If it battles on opponent's monster, any battle damage inflicts to your opponent is doubled. Also, other monsters can attack, but that's fine because like whenever your Crusadia monsters point at something, it can attack anyway. So, you know, he kind of drives that point home. That's another thing, but I'll talk about it more when we get to the extra deck. So let's bring out the next one. This guy's pretty important. So this is Crusadia Draco. So what he does is whenever he's special summoned to a zone a Link monster points to, you get to pick up any Crusadia card out of your graveyard, which is like fantastic. Being able to recur stuff like Crusadia Power and possibly the field spell or even Vanguard to tag out your monsters is pretty useful. But usually you're going to be picking up either one of the monsters that you normal summon to get yourself going, or you're going to be picking up Crusadia Power to protect yourself, which Crusadia Power is a lot like Infestation Pandemic, but it's a little bit different. So let's get into the next one. This is our level 3 tuner, Crusadia Arborea, which she's a tuner for needle fiber, obviously. So what she does is while on the field or in the graveyard, if a Crusadia Link monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish her from field or grave instead. So making her one of the best protection cards in the deck, if not one of the only protection cards in the deck. I think there's only 2. But she's also an amazing target if you're playing Invoked. So, you know, if you don't want them to save their thing, because she can only activate if it would be destroyed. So like after damage calc or stuff like that, after like a Regeki. So if you just like, you know, invocation her away, you don't have to deal with it. Next up is Crusadia Leonis. And what he does is he gives piercing damage. You get a target, I think you have to target it. It might be if it points to. You can target a Crusadia, yeah. So target a Crusadia and it gets piercing damage. So this in conjunction with this turns your Crusadia Link monster into a Chaos Max, which is pretty nutty. And lastly, we have the Crusadia, going off screen a little bit. We have Crusadia Reclusia. So what Reclusia does is it's kind of like the Phantom Knight Xyz monster Breaksword, where you get to target a Crusadia and then target a card or a monster. Target one card your opponent controls and then pop both. So you can, and that's only when it's special summoned to a zone that your that a Link monster points to. So what you could actually do is, this actually is really cool because it has a cool interaction with the Crusadia Vanguard, where if it's in the graveyard, you tag out one of like something like Arborea, because it can activate from field or grave, and then summon this, and then his effect will activate to pop a card and disrupt your opponent. So he's kind of neat because you can just pop itself, which, you know, kind of sucks, but it's whatever. So that's it for the Crusadia exclusive stuff. Everything with Crusadia in its name, I guess. So pretty good lineup, mostly 3-ofs. You could change around the numbers. I think that the next one that I would say maybe him you could cut to 2, but I think he's probably the one that you'd want to cut to 2, because I don't think any other one is like worth cutting to 2. So next up we have World Legacy World Crown. So this is one of probably the best World Legacy card. I keep going off screen. I'm not used to where the camera's pointing. So World Legacy World Crown is a really cool card. It has the same effect as the Crusadia monsters, where it can special summon itself to a zone a Link monster points to, but then it also has the effect of you can tribute it to negate the effect of a effect monster that was special summoned from the extra deck. So really cool, because it's just like, oh, well now it's here and then it's gone to negate something. So it kind of turns into like a Lagia or a Dolka or something along those lines. And you know, it special summons itself. It also has an effect when it's tribute summoned, but like, let's be real, no one's tribute summoning this, so not even worth reading. So next up we have some standard Crusadia stuff, at least post people playing around with it. So we have a Kaiju package, that being, we have the Dark Kaiju, the Dinosaur Kaiju, the Thunder Kaiju, and the Machine Kaiju. So these are some of the more important ones in the deck. You usually want to, so along with these, you're usually running the bigger ones like this, because what you can do is if you put the bigger one to your opponents, not only do you out one of their cards, but you also you get to pick the zone this goes to. So if you have Equimax on board, you just get to slap it in front of it, and Equimax gains 3,300 or 3K or 28 or whatever. So what you're usually, and then if you activate the field spell, which lets all your Crusadia attack everything in a row, you can just instantly swing over the Kaiju for as much damage as, you know, like their attack points are at that moment. So it's a very nice little addition, and a very cool interaction between the Crusadia monsters and the Kaijus. And then last up for the monsters is a pretty standard layout of Mech Knights. So we got Move Man at 2. If you watch my channel, you probably know what these guys do. But for those who don't know, all Mech Knights can special summon themselves to a column that has, so column right here, you guys can see the zones, a column that has 2 or more cards in it, and then they all have a unique effect. So his unique effect is that he gets to target a Mech Knight and then move it to an adjacent zone, or to any main monster zone. So you can target him, move him from here to here, or I guess from here to there, in theory. So really cool. One Blue Sky, because Blue Sky has become kind of a bit of a brick lately, just not as, okay, hang on, I know where I gotta put my cards now. Okay, so just a bit of a brick lately, because you usually don't want to open him. You usually want your opponent to like actually have some board presence first. So that's the main reason he's at 1. And then 2 purple. Purple is the most important one in any Mech Knight like suite, because he's the highest attacking one, and he is kind of a starter when combined with another spell card, which we'll talk about when we get later in the deck. And then we have our Garnets, which is red and yellow. So these guys do very similar things. This one pops, you banish a Mech, both of them have the effect to banish a Mech Knight from the graveyard, and then red pops a monster in its column, and yellow pops a spell or trap in its column. So usually you side this one, at least in like invoked Mech Knight builds and stuff like that. This is usually reserved for the side deck, because not a lot of people are running Floodgates, but it actually ends up being really useful in the True Draco matchup, which this deck does have a bit of a tough time going against. So it just becomes more useful in that matchup than anything else. And I think that looks like it's it for the monsters. So, like I said, I actually don't play this deck on the regular. I have played against it quite a few times, but it's not mine. So if I messed up on any of the monsters, then, you know, give me a little slack. So, looks like we got some 1-ofs up first. So, are these actually sorted? I don't think they're sorted. Wait, they might be. They are sorted, okay. So for starting out, we have 1 copy of Terraforming to search the field spell. It's actually super searchable throughout the deck using another card, and it becomes a little bit easier and more self-explanatory why the Terraforming is at 1. 1 World Legacy Succession. So what this is this is just World Legacy Monster Reborn. It just summons a monster from the graveyard to a zone a Link monster points to. So it's kind of like an extra Crusadia Vanguard. And then regular Monster Reborn, because, you know, it's a good card. We have 1 copy of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber for the Kaiju interaction. This is still one of the best board wipes in the game. Being able to not only board wipe your opponent, but then also dish out damage to them is nuts. 1 World Legacy's Memory. This card is what I was talking about when mentioning purple. This summons purple out of the deck. Purple tributes, banishes itself to search something, and then that something hopefully will get you going. And then only 1 Crusadia Power. So what this does is this makes any Crusadia monster, you target a Crusadia monster you control, and it makes it unaffected by all other card effects except its own, if I'm not mistaken. Unaffected by card effects this turn except its own. You can only activate one per turn. So yeah, so you can pick this up with the dragon. You can search it with the bigger lion from the extra deck. So, you know, just a very useful card. And then we have 2 Crusadia Revival. This is the field spell I was talking about that lets you attack. Oh, there we go. 2 Crusadia Revival lets you attack everything once each. It also gives all your Crusadia Link monsters a bonus 500 attack points, which is like when the Crusadias have all the attack points that they kind of need at their disposal. It's something, it's like, it's no laughing matter essentially. So I actually have to read this card real quick because only target. Okay, so that's it for the spell cards. Play 2 of those. Play 3 of them. There's supposed to be more in the deck.
Yeah.
I was just told. I was just informed. All right, so for traps, we have Crusadia Vanguard. We have 2 of these. So what this does is, like I said, it tags out a Crusadia monster you control for 1 in your deck, or, so what this lets you do is you tribute a Crusadia or World Legacy, and if you do, special summon a Crusadia or World Legacy with a different original name from your deck or graveyard. So that's really cool. So basically it's like, you take Maximus and you turn him into Dragon. Dragon will pick something up on your opponent's turn, or like I said, you contribute, like Arborea, I think is probably one of the best targets for it because she activates from graveyard, and then you tag it out for Magus to, or not Magus, Reclusia to pop a card. And you could also get Crown back to do the negation thing, which is very cool. Also, while it's face up on board and while you control a Crusadia Link monster, your opponent cannot attack other Crusadias you control. They have to hit that Link monster. So, and lastly, for the traps, we have 2 World Legacy Secrets. So this is actually one of the old Mech Knight trap cards, but what it does is, whenever it's activated, you target a level 5 or higher monster in your graveyard, and then special summon it, and then monsters that are in the same column as a Mech Knight, their effects are negated. So it negates monster effects. So if I had like a Mech Knight right here, and the trap, and you had a monster in front of it in like the same column, its effects are negated. So another very cool card to use with the deck. And that's it for the main. So a pretty solid deck. Again, this is actually 39 cards. One of the cards was left behind, but you can just assume that it was probably a Crusadia power. Probably. So moving into the extra deck, we have 3 Crusadia Magus. So this is kind of like how this deck, why this deck is called the Link Zoo, perhaps, or you know. So what Magus is he's a Link 1. He requires just 1 Crusadia monster, and then so all the Link monsters, all the Crusadia Link monsters, all have the effect of gaining attack equal to the monsters they point to, and monsters they point to cannot attack. So Magus has only 100 attack, but he has an effect that whenever a monster is special summoned to the zone he points to, you get to search any Crusadia monster. So so if you normal summon something and then link it off into this guy, and then you have another Crusadia in your hand, you just get to go off and instantly make a Link 3. What?
Or a Mech Knight.
Or a Mech Knight, yeah. So moving into the Link 2s, we have 3 Regulex. So what Regulex does is he's the same way as Crusadia Magus, but he has 1000 attack, and instead of searching a monster, he searches a Crusadia spell or trap. So this searches the field spell, searches the Crusadia power, and it searches Crusadia Vanguard, which is very useful. And then we have a card that I know the guy who owns this deck wishes he had more of, which is Crusadia Equimax. So Crusadia Equimax is kind of like, he has the same effect, you know, where he gains attack equal to the stuff he points to. And he has a few more attack points than the Regulex, but then he also has the effect to tribute a monster he points to and then target a card on the field and negate its effect. So he's kind of like a combination of Decode Talker and Cleafort Genius, where Cleafort Genius gets to target a card on the field on your side and on your opponent's side and negate their effects, but he's more, but then he also has like Decode Talker's tribute effect, but you can activate that during either player's turn at any point, so it's not like Decode where it's reactive. So very cool card. And that's it. By the way, if you have 3 of these, run 3. Like, just run 2? Okay, run 2 of them, don't run 3. Because usually if you have him on board, you're probably gonna win. Because I think he can negate Regeki, can he? He's like Siegfried where you can contribute.
Yeah, because it's a quick effect.
Alright, cool. So next up we have a few of the Nightmares. We have Nightmare Phoenix to pop spells, Nightmare Cerberus to pop monsters, and Nightmare Griffin for the skill drain. So these are more of a toolbox type thing. These are more used like that than say the Crusadia cards. I wouldn't say that you go into these all the time. And lastly, for the Link monsters, 1 Pentastag just for the piercing, but it's more for just being there. It's more for existing than anything else. So, and that is it for the Link monsters. And lastly, there are some XZ monsters in here because this deck actually does get out monsters quite quickly. So you have 1 Grand Pulse for the MST, probably for like Floodgates and stuff like that. 1 Phantom Knights at Breaksword, even though running 2 already in the main. And then 1 Tornado Dragon, again for the MST. Because this deck, if you notice, this deck doesn't have quite a way to remove back row outside of Magius.
And yellow.
And yellow, yeah. So these are more for hitting the other back row that you can't quite hit with the in-themed stuff. So, overall, that is the deck. I'm actually gonna throw the field spell on top here, make the thumbnail look a little nicer maybe. There we go. All right, but there you have it. That is the Crusadia deck. So this deck is still, like, this is one of those decks that like people think is gonna be contending for the meta. It's one of those decks that honestly has quite a high ceiling for potential just because of the way that it functions. It's a heavy OTK strategy that has stuff that a lot of OTK decks don't, which makes it just such a powerhouse of a deck. And like even playing against this with Invoked Mech Knight and even playing against this with Cyber Dragons, it becomes, maybe not this exact build, but this deck can become one of just the most insane board presency things that has so much disruption because it likes to main, it wants to main the Kaijus, it wants to main the World Legacy Crown that disrupts, it wants to main all these things that prevent your opponent from killing your stuff before you kill them. So while they only really get to attack with 1 monster, the fact that this field spell lets you attack multiple times just gives this deck an insane power ceiling. But yeah, so tell me what you guys think about this deck in the comments below, and of course always comment what you can do, what you would do to make it better, and I'll see you guys in the next video.